What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Devote 101. Kind of forgot what I was going to say there. It's been a little bit, but that's all right. So, got a good one today. I've been planning this for a while. Here I have with me is Mrs. Michelle Stroud. This is my youth pastor's wife. Let me get that right. Youth pastor's wife. And we've been planning on doing this for a long while, and I'm very excited about this. So, Michelle, thank you for taking the time to be here.
Yeah. It's kind of funny that our title is what our title is because
It's now, not later.
Yes, and when you first approached me, it was it was October.
Oh,
it was
October.
October.
Before Halloween. That's right.
And then last week, still going along with that theme of now, not later. Okay, can we push it back another week?
Well, I mean, we had a lot of holidays and a lot of events
Yeah.
coming up, so it really just got in the way. So I just figured to just wait till after the new year to, initiate this and everything. So, again, thank you for being here. So,
No problem.
before we get started, if you could tell people a little bit about yourself.
I'm Michelle Stroud. Michelle is my middle name. Not a lot of people know that. Yeah.
Okay, well.
My nickname is Meshach from birth. So
I knew that.
Yeah. I am 28 years old, and I am a youth pastor's wife, but I guess I consider that youth pastor, co-youth pastor-ish.
Ish.
Yeah. And I have a very extremely fat cat named Roomba. Yeah, I just had to mention her. I had to.
Oh, that cat's hilarious, though.
Yes.
I had to take care of the cat one time, and literally the cat was just, for the video, the cat, every time I looked at it, it was just...
Yeah, she doesn't do a lot, but we love her.
All right, well, obviously we've already mentioned that the title of this podcast was Now Not Later. We talked about this before. We both have different approaches to this, which is the whole point of this. It's okay to have different approaches, which is good. So when I think of the title Now Not Later, I'll read this real quick, this verse. It's James 4:17. Therefore to him that knoweth to do good, and doeth it not, to him is sin. To him it is sin. And the way I look at that is, we all know that we are to spread the gospel any way we can, but more often we end up putting it off till later. And it's almost like I'll do it later. I got more important stuff right now, and that's really why I think that I have put stuff off before. It's just being like I have more important stuff right now, when in reality it's not important at all. And a lot of excuses get in the way.
Right.
We tend to procrastinate, which is to delay or postpone an action, or primarily just to put off something. And this is a very common thing in 2020. Most of the time it's putting off something because it seems like there's something, better to do.
I kind of looked up the definition too of procrastinate, and I found the Latin word for procrastinate, and it's procrastinare, possibly.
Wow.
Yeah, and it means to put forward to tomorrow, and I thought that was like the striking point, like, oh, to tomorrow, and the Bible says several times that we're not promised tomorrow. Take no thought for tomorrow. Live today. Today is the day of salvation.
Yeah.
And so that's, I guess, why we should consider procrastination bad, is because we are going into a space that only God owns tomorrow. We don't own tomorrow. We have no idea what tomorrow is going to bring.
The other verse that I had, let's see where I go from here, is Proverbs 10:4-5. He becometh poor that dealeth with a slack hand, but the hand of the diligent maketh rich. He that gathereth in summer is a wise son, but he that sleepeth in the harvest is a son that causeth shame. We need to be telling people about the Lord, or what He's done for us primarily. I need to be telling people about what God has done for me while I'm alive. Because when I'm dead, nobody's gonna know about it.
Yeah.
Only people that have remembered me. And while I'm alive, I want to continue to spread the gospel. And you mentioned it before. That's why I chose to do this podcast. Just um, what was the thing called that we did the test?
The aptitude
The
test
aptitude
is for
test.
the service gifts.
We took an aptitude test a couple months ago, and one of it's like explain it a little bit. You can explain it better than I can.
The service gifts, there's like the supernatural gifts like speaking in tongues or tongues and interpretation of tongues, healing. But then there's a thing called service gifts. It's mentioned in the Bible. It talks about gifts that we have, like giving mercy or giving money. Like some people have more of an aptitude to, or more of a mindset to give monetarily than, like for instance, my husband, he's a giver. He is a big time giver. He thinks about how can I bless somebody, financially. I don't think about those things. Not that I'm a bad Christian, but that's not my gifting. But there's other gifts such as teaching. That's another gift, like a fivefold ministry. So that has like double points. There's, let's see, a service. Think about, for service, think about Dorcas. Dorcas made, nobody had to tell her to do this, but she made clothes for the poor and for widows. And then there's like helping. Helping is a gift. Leadership and helping kind of go hand in hand. Whereas, helpers may not necessarily go out and do something on their own, but they will do whatever is told, like if you need me to do it, I will do it, that kind of deal.
Yeah.
And there's a few others, but, off the top of my head, evangelism. Yeah.
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 That was probably the third. I think the top one was administrative.
Yeah.
The second one, what did I say that was?
Administration, leadership,
and evangelism. And, the word evangelism, I used to get scared about the word because it made it feel like I had to literally travel across the country or across the world and just preach. And it doesn't necessarily mean that. It is going around and telling people about the Lord.
Yeah.
And, you already said this is the podcast. You feel like that's why I did it. And that is why I did it. It's because, when I first wanted to do this podcast, I was always trying to find a podcast that was just like a conversation talking about things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis and being Christian and all that, and I never could find one that wasn't just I'm not against these kind of podcasts, but it's just I couldn't find anything that wasn't just preaching, and those are great, nothing wrong with those, but I was just trying to find a conversation type podcast to just talk about things and just tell people about what we have dealt with and what we've went through in our own personal testimonies and stuff like that, and my own personal testimony. And that's every time I think the podcast hasn't done anything, and I'm not bragging, this is not for bragging rights at all, it's extremely humbling to hear this, but every time I think, maybe nobody's listening to the podcast anymore, I don't upload a lot, but somebody's always come up to me and said that really touched me, and it's very humbling to me. And again, I'm very slow to being arrogant about it because that's I could not have the opportunity to do this.
Right.
I was blessed to be able to have the necessary things to do it, and some of this stuff is a bit excessive, but I was blessed to be able to do it, and this was one of my giftings. I firmly believe, and I am thankful to be a part of it, and just to be able to tell people about it. And like I said, it's very humbling.
Yeah. So this is like for you, probably like a branch of evangelism, like to you, because you're using your gifts and your avenues to be evangelistic ish, an evangelist.
Okay, that's probably the correct word. But we've got to get in the now mode. Because that's what I was about the podcast. It was like, the longer I wait, the longer it's just not going to happen. And so I just had to do it, and I finally did it, and thank the Lord, here we are at episode 12.
Wow.
12. Yeah. Nope, wrong. It's actually 11. I honestly thought I'd never get to 10, but who knows? Might get to 100 one day. If I get to 100, I'll be so happy. But like I said, we've got to get in the now mode, not stay in the later mode.
Yeah.
And, we'll miss opportunities if we do that,
Hmm.
and that goes in anything.
I was, looking up procrastination, and I found this site that kind of broke down the types of procrastination, and
Mm.
I kind of wanted to go over this, kind of to see what our type was or what.
Okay, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
probably every type for me, but
Yeah. Yeah. I'm most of these. So type one, types of procrastination. There's anxious procrastination. So with this type, these people use procrastination as a way to cope with the stress associated with starting or finishing a task.
hmm
Like, they just kind of, when they think about the task, they get stressed out of how they're going to do it, so they just kind of put it
put
off.
it off.
Yeah, so that's anxious. Number two, which I think maybe what fit what you said earlier, is the fun procrastination. So it's would rather be doing anything except that one task. They see all the fun and exciting things they could be doing instead. So
Ah,
maybe
okay.
like
Yeah.
they said something like the shiny object procrastination, like
Shiny
distracted
object.
easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Easily distracted.
Yes. This third one is me to the core. This is plenty of time procrastination. Uh, they find it's difficult to start when they know the deadline is a long way off.
Yes.
That is me. That is
hmm
so me. And then the fourth one is perfectionist procrastination. It's when you let the fear of failing or fear of producing something at a low standard, that you let that be so overwhelming that they never actually get around to starting. So
Is it just 4 of them?
there could be more, but this is just
Is
what
that all you
this.
found though? Okay.
Yeah, this is just what this site said.
Call me crazy, but I'll be honest. Like I have, for different situations, I have done all 4 of those.
Yeah, no, I totally
It's
can relate.
probably if I would have to like do 2, because there's no one. But
Mm-hmm.
I definitely am 2 of these. Is probably the anxious one and the what was the second one?
The
The
fun
fun.
one.
Yeah. But the other 2, probably done in like school, like plenty
Yeah,
of time for a project or something.
yeah,
And I always wait till like a week before.
yes,
In speech class, that's what I did, and thank the Lord I passed it. But the third one was again
plenty of
plenty
time.
of time, and the fourth one was
Perfectionist.
perfectionist. Wow, I never thought about it that way. I just thought about just procrastination as just one thing.
Yeah, I want to show you. I found this cartoon back in college, so it's been 2012, 2013, and I saved it on my Pinterest, so I still have it. But I immediately thought of it. But he says, "Do you have an idea for your project yet?" "No, I'm waiting for inspiration." "You can't just turn on creativity like a faucet. You have to be in the right mood." He says, "What mood is that?" "Last minute panic."
Last minute panic.
Yeah, that is so. That just describes me to a T. Is
Well, some people perform better under pressure.
yeah,
That
yeah.
that may be why they do it. As far as the anxious thing goes, um, I think that's my hardest one to deal with. Is because I always get worried about. Really, okay. It kind of intertwines. I get anxious about how unperfect it could be because I
Mhm.
start worrying about how I can make it perfect on whatever it is. Like for instance, when Brandon had asked me to speak in front of the youth in hyphen one time or twice, I have every time, or both times, and Brandon has actually warned me of this. When you go up there and speak, he said you're gonna walk off feeling like a failure, and he said, "Nah, I'm not trying to, be mean here, but that's just
Yeah.
that's just how you're gonna feel." And I felt that. I mean, honestly, and um, the anxious part of that is just knowing that you're doing it for the Lord.
Yes.
Don't worry about is this gonna like have a break, a great what am I looking for? A great altar call. Is it gonna have a great? Is it gonna convict somebody?
Mhm.
That's not what you should be worried about. It's how can I help someone with this word, as far as, and I'm just talking of my own experience, as far as like speaking in front of people. That's the anxious part of it, is speaking in front of people. Anytime I had to speak in front of someone, especially when it's talking about you know what God's done for me or anything, and really I was just worried about what are people going to think, and the main thing I would suggest about that is not think about what people are going to think. Think about what you're doing for God, and it may not be the best way to tell people how to do it because people function differently. But
No.
that's what I set my mindset to.
Yeah, you should absolutely, whether it be singing or whatever you're using your talent for, it's not for other people anyway.
Mm-mm.
You have to get out that mindset of, oh, so and so might think I'm weird or stupid, or it's not for those people. I
No.
mean, it's to minister, but I was actually praying today, in preparation for this. I want to make sure that what I'm saying isn't Michelle, because I know that there's nothing new I can say. There's nothing profound that I can come up with that could inspire someone to come to God. God already put every word in the Bible that should inspire or should bring people to salvation. But if we kind of take ourselves out of the equation and take ourselves out of pride and getting self-absorbed, God's going to take control. I mean, it's about Him anyway.
Yeah. Okay. The fun procrastination, as far as applying it to doing stuff for the Lord. I can probably relate to this best. As far as whether it be singing or teaching or preaching or even just doing services. I'm sorry, the service part of anyone's ministry. If you may not see it as fun, Brandon said it best actually a long time ago when he was preaching a message. He was actually talking about AJ Holloway at this. I think it was this ministry event. They were all sitting down eating lunch and they were talking about sports, all this kind of stuff, professional sports. And I know Brandon is not very into sports, so he probably was just sitting there like,
Yeah.
that's cool, yeah.
Yeah.
And AJ was sitting there. He said, "This is all just so frivolous, meaningless." And he's right. In all honesty, really, none of this stuff, like sports or
Instagram,
Facebook,
influencing.
social media,
Yeah.
entertainment things, movies, worldly music, none of that matters. And God checked me on that a long time ago. And I've mentioned this before, but I'll say it again. When I was in high school, I didn't care about anything that happened in church. I just came, went through the motions, and went on home because I played basketball. I was on a basketball team. I was obsessed with it. You can ask my grandparents. And whenever I wasn't playing basketball, I was on YouTube watching people play basketball. That's how much I was into it. And I thought I was gonna go to college and get drafted in the NBA and all this kind of stuff. That was my game plan. And I don't know if I had asked God, or what. At one service I had got kind of touched, and it's like, if you can use anything, Lord, you can use me. That song came on, and I sang it, and I meant it. And I was like, Lord, use me, however way. Did not know what I was asking for. Half the time we don't even know what we're asking for when we're talking to God about something. And we can get into that in a minute. But, I was like, I can live for God and play basketball and go to the NBA. Probably could, but that's not what He had planned for me. And the next year, we had tryouts and all that kind of stuff. Went to the locker room, look at the list to see who was on there. My name was not on there. And I was on there for 2 years before that. And the coach liked me and everything. That's what shocked me. It derailed me. Matter of fact, I cried about it because I was so obsessed with the sport that it had become a part of me, and I pretty much worshipped it. It had become an idol to me.
Yeah.
And so when it got ripped away from me, it was like an emotional tear. And my papa said, after all this, he said, "Well, now you get to be more involved in the church." That's what he said to me. And at that time, I was like, I don't care about that. And then I kind of thought about it later. Might have taken me a month or so. But I remember I said, well, I had asked God to use me. And this is maybe the way. Maybe I don't need sports. And that's when I realized I didn't need basketball. Don't get me wrong, I still play it here and there. But I can't remember the last time I touched a basketball. It had become a god to me rather than what was more important in life, which was serving God in whatever way He wanted me to. And that was the start of things. And 6 years later, 5 years later, I never thought I would be here. I never thought I'd even be singing in the choir. I never thought I'd be doing this podcast. I never would have thought I would have any sort of courage to get up in front of Youth and Hyphen and, just speak the word.
Mhm.
I never thought I'd be a part of any of that. And that's what I'm getting to is once you realize the importance of what you're doing for the Lord, all this fun stuff, you can still have the fun stuff. It just doesn't need to become number one. What's number one in your life? Is it the Lord or is it the world? And that's just my mindset now. What's more important to me? And don't get me wrong, sometimes stuff does get in. I do let stuff get in the way, but we're all human. Sometimes it happens. But as far as the fun procrastination, you know, it's all meaningless. What matters is what you do for the Lord, whether it be anything. And you don't have to be preaching
Yeah.
or singing. And what I'm getting to there is that this can be fun, doing stuff for the Lord. Doing this podcast is fun. Don't get me wrong, I get nervous, I get stressed out about it, but it's fun in the end. Once I hit that button and stop recording, I'm like, that was fun. Every time I enjoyed it, even if I did ramble, even if I did ramble the whole time, I enjoy doing this. I enjoy singing up on the platform, not because everybody can see me. I literally do not care about that. I have let that get in the way before, but ultimately, going up there and being a vessel to help open up that atmosphere of worship it's fun to me. It's fun to do that. It's fun to praise.
Yeah.
In my personal opinion, I mean,
No, absolutely.
I've had to get to this point.
Yeah.
At first it was not. My flesh would always get, why you gotta jump? Why you gotta raise your hand? It's like, why do you gotta be like that? That was my flesh. But my spirit big S, has gotten, I guess you could say, it has gotten bigger than my flesh.
Yeah.
I have allowed my spirit to overcome my flesh and just allow a shout of praise.
Well,
to
that's
come out
what
every
you
now
were
and again.
feeding.
Yes.
I mean, you feed your flesh, your flesh will take over. But if you constantly, feed your spirit, your spirit's going to thrive.
Yes, and if I encourage anyone, if you're, wanting to get more involved in your church, but you don't know how to do it, or it may not seem fun, or it may seem stressful, get involved in a lot of different ways. Like it becomes fun.
Yeah.
I don't know why. You could call me boring for finding this fun, but when Hunter asked me to go move stuff, to get stuff ready for what is it called? Launch out. I'm blanking out all the time. Whenever Hunter asked me to go get the gym ready for launch out, I always find it fun just to move the chairs around and move the tables
I'm glad
up.
you find that
I don't know why I
fun.
find it fun. I don't know why. Okay, I think I do have a little bit of. Andy has told me this before. She said, I think you got a little bit of hospitality in you. She said, I don't think you gave yourself enough credit on that, because when we had the little hayride at my house, I literally was so concerned about how many seats we needed and how many tables we needed. Papa was like, nobody's gonna sit at tables. They just needed chairs. And lo and behold, people use the tables. Thank the Lord. And then I even made sure I even brought my grandmother's stereo out so I could have music playing. So if it was awkward, there would still be music in the background, just so it'd be some sort of entertainment and all that sort of stuff. And so setting up for the gym, it's fun to do that to me, because I some people don't think about it, but I do. And Hunter don't get enough credit either. That dude's always willing to do stuff.
That dude. Look,
Literally.
me and Brennan all the time. We're just like that dude. He's a beast.
He does it without even cringing.
Yeah.
You ask him to go do something. Okay. Just
Yes.
does it. Sometimes I do go ugh, but I do it.
At
But
least
he
you
just-
respond,
yeah.
because a lot of times it's, hey guys, we need someone to move chairs, and
Everybody
they just pretend they don't
everybody
hear you and just
yeah.
kind of walk
Right,
away.
Everybody's like,
Yeah.
what's this? I got a text from Instagram. Yeah. And Hunter's just like, anybody want help? And everybody's like, oh, I got a phone call, something.
Yeah.
But not naming names. But, Hunter he finds it fun. I guess. I mean, he doesn't seem to act like he hates it.
Well,
He loves doing it.
I think it's rewarding. That's the word that it really is. It's like it is fun. It has a fun aspect, but it's rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, teaching, I help teach the youth class. And while it's work, it's, time of study and preparation. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun to me. And it's rewarding. I
Yeah.
think that's the main thing is that, I feel good knowing that I was able to be used in a way that I can impart in someone, which
Yeah.
that's part of my giftings is mentoring and teaching. So it's fulfilling to me.
Yeah. Find what's rewarding to you or what's fun to you or something that you enjoy. Some people like doing hospitality things because they like to just serve people. Some people like to teach because they like to feed people. Well,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
And some people just like greeting people because they like to see a smile on someone's face. How you doing this morning? Shake their hand. It doesn't matter what it is. Nothing's bigger. No thing's bigger than the other because it's all a service to the church and to the Lord. And that's all I had to say on that one. Plenty of time. This one was an interesting one. Back to the Devote 101 thing. Whenever you had mentioned something about this too, about the plenty of time. But what was I going to say? When I wanted to do this podcast, a year and a half, 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, something like that, I always was like thinking, oh, I need to do it now. I was like, no, I got plenty of time, literally, because I was like, I got plenty of time. I have school I got to worry about. Let me get done with school because I'll have time to do it after I get done with school and all that kind of stuff. And I had just gotten to the point where I was like, no, I need to do it now, not later.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be more happy to start
Mm-hmm.
it. And you mentioned something about plenty of time. I don't know if you.
That's just, I think that's my main struggle as far as doing a task. You just feel like, oh, well, I had 2 weeks is plenty of time. I can do it, but I always, that's my struggle. It's like, I feel like if I could just get it done right off the bat, I'd be good. But
Yeah.
then the longer I keep just pushing it back a day, then I'm at last minute. And I've done that several times in my life. Probably too many to count. But I think the way to combat that mindset is you literally cannot think like that. I mean, our days are numbered. We're in the last days. We don't have plenty of time.
Mm-hmm.
We just cannot think like that. We don't have plenty of time.
Yeah.
That's not reality. We have to just, snap out of it basically
Yeah.
and get into the mindset of this is urgent. We have to feel that urgency.
Yeah. You had mentioned earlier, we're not promised tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
So why the quote "I'll do it tomorrow" thing?
Yeah. I think I have a verse for that. James 4:14, which you mentioned 17, I think, but it's how do you know what your life will be like tomorrow? Your life is like the morning fog. It's here a little while, then it's gone. What you ought to say is, if the Lord wants us to, we will live and do this or that. Otherwise, you are boasting about your own pretentious plans, and all such boasting is evil. Remember, it is sin to know what you ought to do and then not do it. Mm-hmm. That's the NLT version.
Yeah.
But that first part, how do you know what your life's going to be like tomorrow?
Yeah.
Who are you to say you know what you can do later,
We are as a vapor. We're here and then we're gone.
Yes.
Literally, it's quick as that. I mean, honestly, I'm 22. And it felt like I was 18 the other day.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like I was just graduating school last year. And, we don't have a lot of time. I mean, we might live till we're 80, but time flies, and if we don't act now, we may never do it.
Yeah. And not even just we could say, well, God may not come back for another 200 years. Okay, if that's the case, you're still not promised tomorrow. You could die in a car crash in 3 hours.
Yeah.
I'm not speaking that in Jesus' name.
No.
But I'm just saying, nobody's promised the next hour.
Yeah.
Which is why we have to feel that urgency.
I may not make it to the rapture.
Yeah.
Like you just said, I might pass away before then. I might die of old age. I might die tomorrow. We're not promised tomorrow. Live today like it's your last. Do what all you can in one day. I mean, don't overload yourself, but be smart about it, and plan it out. Good thing about that, I think what might cause people to, this might lead on into perfectionist or not, but I don't know. But what might lead people to procrastinate, I think, is making too huge of goals. Because if you make a goal too huge, you feel like, oh, I'll never reach that. That's why I suggest making smaller goals. It's January 14th, probably going to be whatever the date is on Sunday. The New Year's resolutions thing.
Oh yeah.
I don't do them, and it's not because I'm not superstitious against them or anything or whatever. Like whatever, I don't. It's not that I don't believe them. I don't think people are stupid to do them. I'm not against them. I just don't do it because I know me. Be like, I'm gonna read the Bible through 3 times this year or something.
Look, okay, this is
Something like
funny
that.
that you said that because I think it was this past service. So what, Wednesday? No,
Mhm.
well, it's Sunday. Whatever day it was, Presley asked me and Kayla if we had any resolutions, and I said I don't really do resolutions
Oh,
because
really?
for the same reason, because I always put like huge
Yeah.
goals. I'm gonna lose 20 pounds, and I'm
Yeah.
and no like real plan, just
Mhm.
these huge goals I'm gonna do, and then I end up like hating myself at the
After
end
the
of the
second
year.
week, I'm
Yeah.
like, I can't do this. I'll just try to lose 2.
Yes.
Or
Yeah.
I'll just read 2 chapters or something. I'll mention this. We are the same Enneagram number,
Yeah. We
3.
are.
So makes sense how we think
Yeah.
the same way. But what I suggest there, and Presley actually suggested it this Sunday at Hyphen, making smaller goals. Because if you make smaller goals, it's like, okay, it's like make levels to it. I'm trying to think of an example. Like, for the podcast, I didn't make a goal to try to reach 100 episodes by the end of the year. Because I
Yeah.
clearly did not do that. I started it last year, around maybe February, March, and I'm just now at episode 11.
Yeah.
And the reason why I didn't do it was because I didn't want to put the pressure on myself of trying to crank out an episode a week. And don't get me wrong, I probably could do that, but I wouldn't be doing it out of doing it for God. I would just be doing it trying to meet a deadline.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't come from my heart anymore. It would just come from my desire to reach that goal.
Yeah.
Because it'd be too big. And so I never set a goal how many episodes I want to come out every year. It doesn't matter. When the time's right, it's when it's gonna happen. And as far as like, we'll just say like reading the Bible, we did start at the very beginning of this year of reading through the Bible every day. And don't get me wrong, it's been pretty hard. I've had to catch up a couple of days sometimes. And it's good that we're doing 3 chapters a day rather than trying to just, read through it before the first quarter of the year or something. And stuff like that. Praying, if you want to, somebody said it. I don't know if Brother Zach said it, Brother Anthony Mangan said it, or someone else. He said, I may not pray 2 hours a day, but I won't go 30 minutes without praying. Stuff like that. And whenever you pray, this is a goal I've set for myself. I was always so against praying in the morning because I'm like, I'm too tired. Literally, I'll just be all like going through the motions, like, oh, thank you, Lord, for this day. I hope you have a good day. Anyway, amen. And go on with the day and literally get nothing done there. And I set a goal to try to pray every day. I did set a goal, a New Year's resolution, but
Not a major goal.
it wasn't. I didn't treat it like a New Year's resolution, but I was
Yeah.
like, this year I'm gonna do my best to pray every morning. I failed, but I have. The reason why is because I think whenever I wake up, I'm just so tired, and whenever I get up, I'm trying to pray, and my brain is still trying to turn on, and so I can't just think of stuff to pray. So what I've done, at the night before, is make a list of stuff I'm going to pray about in the morning, and it may not be the way everybody does it. Everybody may not. I mean, some people may do it differently, but that helps me pray, and I've ended up praying longer than I intended on because setting that list gives me stuff to pray for, and it's not stupid stuff like help me have a good day today. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do ask them, let me have a good day today, that kind of stuff, but people to pray for, situations to
Yeah.
pray for, and it's not just about me either. Pray for other people, pray for other situations, and setting goals like that and a list for me in the morning has really helped me pray in the mornings because it's given me an incentive and stuff to think about.
Yeah. I kind of I kind of put a I guess, how do we overcome procrastination in our walk with God or in our purpose in the kingdom? And, I already mentioned, we have to feel the urgency of today, not putting off till tomorrow. And just going off what you said, prioritizing your life and your schedule. So before you set off doing, going off in your day or doing the work of God, you have to make a connection and develop a relationship with God. And like you said, I mean, it's vital to have that daily communication with God to build that relationship. What I wrote was, you have to establish a relationship with God and you'll recognize His voice. When you recognize His voice and you're sensitive to His Spirit, that will allow you to be aware when something is or is not beneficial to your day or to your calling. So in my daily, kind of figuring out, all right, what am I going to do today? What can I accomplish today? When you're building your schedule or when you're thinking, okay, I have to get this, 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 and this done, like you said, kind of make your list at night, kind of make your schedule at night. All right, what am I going to expect for the next day? And then I take my schedule and I pray about it. And like every morning, that's the first thing I'm going to do. The first app I touch in my phone is the Bible. I try to make a point. I'm not going to look at my email. I'm not going to look at text. I'm not going to look at Facebook until I look at the Word. And so with that in mind, in that, prayerful state, like, okay, God, here's my schedule. Here's what I'm, planning to do today, but I'm going to surrender the schedule to you. When you do that, when you kind of surrender your will to God's will, He can not only establish what you've planned, but He can also interrupt your schedule to further your walk and your purpose and His kingdom. For instance, you might have all these things planned, and then all of a sudden your mom calls and she wants to talk for a long time. God may be saying, you need to, build your relationship with your mom or your friend, or you might unexpectedly have to run into the store and you run into somebody that maybe needed a word. But you have to have that daily connection with God so you are able to recognize when God says, this is more important.
Yeah.
This needs to take priority of over this. So I think to kind of combat that procrastination, I think any tool of procrastination, which I wrote this down as far as, should we blame social media for procrastination? No, it's a tool of procrastination, but it's not the cause of it. I mean, procrastination's been around a lot longer than social media has. Yes.
It's all what goes on in your head.
Exactly. But you have to figure out how you can manage those tools and manage, all right, if I really want to look at Facebook or Instagram, I'm not going to look at it until 6 p.m. tonight. I'm going to get the rest of my day done first. Or, look, I just discovered the time limit on your phone.
Oh, Lord. My that convicts me every week.
Yes.
You have spent 7 hours on YouTube total every day.
Look.
Every day, not a week. I'm like,
What?
I'm on it that much. Like yeah, it literally convicts me. So I've got it to where it notifies me every week.
Yeah.
That's
well,
crazy.
I set a time limit on my Instagram and Facebook just because, you get sucked into it and there's no like stop point. Have you seen that YouTube video? And it was I can't remember who it was, but he was talking about the reason why we spend so much time on social media is because it has no natural end to it. Like,
I haven't seen that.
Okay, well, anyway.
I mean, you're constantly scrolling. There's always stuff
Yeah.
there.
I mean, like, they talks about when you read a newspaper, I mean, you obviously read the paper and then it was done. You read it all. But with, Instagram, Facebook, you just can keep going for days and days. And there's no trigger point to say it's over.
Matter of fact, my Instagram, everyone knows this, like when you're scrolling through Instagram, it'll tell you, you're all caught up, as far as everything. I never see that.
Does not faze me.
Well, I follow too much sports stuff, and I can't ever get to, like, other stuff.
Oh.
It keeps showing the same stuff I'm like, that's why I'm scrolling so much.
Yeah.
But somebody's asked me, like, did you see this post on Instagram? I'm like, I haven't been on it today. It's just because I don't know, I've really kind of, like, tried to stop being on social media so much.
Yeah.
And I was going to mention this. You mentioned this earlier. When you make a schedule and something interrupts it,
Mhm.
I used to have a problem with that. Trying to make structure out of my day. I'm going to do
You're gonna
this
check
and this
every
and this.
box.
I will
Yeah.
check everything off, and nothing will stop me.
Mhm.
I had that mindset, which is nothing wrong with having that mindset. But like you said, something may happen in between it. The Lord may be trying to tell you something. And somebody said this one time. I don't know if it was Brother Stroud or if it was someone else that came here one time, but he said, this one guy, anytime he went to go do something for an errand, he saw it as trying to go witness to somebody, or maybe he needs to give somebody a word. So if he had to go to the gas station to get gas, whoever he comes in contact with, he needs to be an encouragement to him.
Yeah.
So whatever might interrupt your schedule, there might be a reason for that.
Mhm.
And I do believe everything happens for a reason, because anything that comes up, if you're in the will of God, okay, you don't necessarily have to understand why did that happen. It's just
Yeah.
like, okay, maybe I need to do something here.
Mhm.
If a complete stranger talks to me, I mean, when I deliver, I think it's pretty clear that I've mentioned that. When I deliver medicine to people, I do my best to be as nice as I can to them, and it's just nice to see their face just light up. Now, primarily, I think it's because I'm giving them their meds. They're like, yes, I get the
Yeah.
pain meds or whatever, whatever. But you know, being extra nice to them, I don't know why. It's like it shocks them that I'm
Yeah.
so nice, and they're like, I don't know. Some people, I feel like I've taken them aback of how nice I was to them. They're like, I ought to call your boss and tell him how good a person you've been. And I'm
Oh.
like, thanks. And sometimes I don't even realize I'm being overly nice. I'm just kind of just going through the workday,
Yeah.
But anytime you come into contact with a stranger, even if you have a schedule, don't try to push them aside. We are to be uh, a light to the world.
Yeah.
And, that doesn't mean if you come in contact with somebody, let me tell you about this message I thought
Mhm.
about. You ain't got to talk to them for 15 to 20 minutes. It might be like a 5 second, uh, hi, hello, how are you? Doing great. Not many people nowadays will look at you and smile in public and say,
Yeah.
hi, how are you? Matter of fact, I've done it, and people just don't know how to respond to it.
Yeah.
And so, you doing it to people, it really, it's humbling, and it actually lights them up a little bit, and it's very nice to do that,
Mhm.
And so, anything that interrupts your schedule, there's probably a reason for it. God might be speaking to you about that.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I actually had a verse that kind of went with that, and that was Proverbs 16:3. Commit thy works unto the Lord, and thy thoughts shall be established. So, going along with, when you commit your work, commit your day, your schedule to God, your thoughts will be established. He's going to order your steps,
Yeah.
and it'll be blessed. It'll be such a difference when
Mhm.
you give it over to God rather than not.
Yeah. And He might put something in your way that you don't expect. It's like, what is this, Lord? It's like, well,
Yeah,
you say you want to be committed to me. Let's see how committed you are,
exactly.
Stuff like that, I don't know if you want to get into the perfectionist procrastination part, but I can somewhat relate to that, but not 100%.
Mhm.
If I put stuff off, it's not because I'm worried about it being perfect, but don't get me wrong, I would like it to be perfect, but this is the way I look at it. Nobody's perfect, and so what I put together is as good as I can get. And if someone doesn't like it, or doesn't think it's the best thing in the world, then that's them. And there's nothing I can do about it. I can only do what Nathaniel can only do what Nathaniel can do, and the rest is God's.
Yeah.
And whether it be singing, speaking, service, uh, administration, leadership, teaching, talking to someone, you know, in public, you know, I may sound like a complete stutter. I might sound like what's his name, Moses, as far as when I'm speaking to strangers sometimes, because I'm like, how are you? I'm like, good, good. How are you?
Yes.
And whatever, just being a service and just understanding that nobody's perfect. That's just the way that I can, you know, say how to beat that. Just to understand that nobody's perfect, but that may not be enough for people.
Yeah. Well,
But I don't know if you had anything to add on the.
I think it's just kind of goes to me. Anxious and perfectionist kind of go hand in
Mm-hmm.
hand, and just as far as the scriptures say, be anxious for nothing, but in everything in prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, you
Yeah.
know, like make your request be known to God. Like
Mm-hmm.
just take it to Him, let Him help you.
Yeah.
Make
Yeah.
an effort, but let Him help you.
Put it in His hands, and you know, you really shouldn't have to worry about it. Uh, well, now we can kind of move over to the other part,
Okay.
unless you had anything else to add before we ended that.
I wanted to point out the
Mm-hmm.
fact that you don't really find, as far as Bible characters, a lot of, like, none really came to my mind that really procrastinated,
I had I
except,
had one.
was it Felix?
No.
Oh,
It
okay. Well,
was Jonah.
yeah, yeah,
But anyway,
which I
I
don't
want
know
to
if
hear
he
yours.
he really
He ran away from it.
yeah,
So
it wasn't like he was like, I'm gonna do it, but he
no,
was
no, no.
like,
I mean, he. Okay, that's the only thing that I could. See, Felix, I'd never even thought of.
okay, I'll tell you about Felix.
Okay.
So Felix comes from Acts 24 and verse 24. What's happening is Paul is basically being put on trial,
Mm-hmm.
and instead of like really defending himself, he just pretty much preaches the gospel. And he's talking to Felix and his wife Drusilla, and they're Greek or Roman, like, so they're not which is, his says his wife was a Jewess, but Felix was not. So I'll read it. And after certain days, when Felix came with his wife Drusilla, which was a Jewess, he sent for Paul, and heard him concerning the faith in Christ. And as he reasoned of righteousness, temperance, and judgment to come, Felix trembled, and answered, Go thy way for this time. When I have a convenient season, I will call for thee. So what happened was Paul, he's telling the gospel, and the main points he hits on were righteousness, temperance, which is self control, and judgment, like
Mm-hmm.
the ultimate judgment to come.
Yeah.
So here's Felix. He's a Greek or or Roman, and their like religion basically was self pleasure. I'll do whatever makes me happy.
Mm-hmm.
No one else matters. So when he's hearing about being righteous, he don't do righteousness.
No.
Being having self control, he don't know about having self control, and judgment to come. He trembled. He was fearful. He believed Paul and thought, "Oh my gosh, there's a judgment to come.
Mm-hmm.
I got to change my ways." But then he says, "Go away, and when it's convenient for me, at another time, I'll call you back." So, and you never hear about Felix another time in the Bible. So that, to me, I feel
Oof.
like he probably never found another convenient season.
Honestly, oof for that whole situation.
Yes.
That's. See, I never even heard of Felix, which I like the last part of it. I'm pretty sure it kind of stuck out to everyone. When I have a convenient season, I will call for thee. It's when you apply that to anything, it's when it's convenient for me. When is it going to be convenient?
Uh,
You tell me the perfect scenario when it's convenient to start living for the Lord, start, doing stuff for Him. When is it convenient? Could you think of a perfect time
it's
in
probably
life?
never.
I mean, there's never a perfect time, and I guarantee you, as soon as you start, something's going to happen
Yeah.
because the devil's just going to try to make you stumble because you're starting to live for him. You're starting to try to live better. I feel like every time I'm like, okay, God, I'm going to live for you, and something happens. It either might be God testing me or it might be the devil trying to make me fall. And it's never going to be a time when you're living for God that it's going to be easy.
Yeah.
It's never easy, and that may be what that scares a lot of people away because it's not easy. But in all honesty, what in the world is easy?
Yeah.
When I know people that have had experience in church or have maybe even came to our church and has got a little bit of a touch, and they're like, I'll come again,
Mhm.
I'll come one day or something. And I'm not being rude about it, but it's like, what out there in the world has to offer that is, I don't know, more that has security behind it.
Yeah.
What's more, I don't know, rewarding, besides getting drunk, getting high, or, you know, all these other pleasures and all that sort of stuff. All that stuff has bad after effects.
Yeah. It's short term.
It's short term. No long term. And the living for the Lord and doing stuff for Him is long term. It will be. And people want to see, what can I get now, and that's where we can kind of lead into this, where I want this now, not later thing. When people start living for God, they want results right now.
Yes.
Right now. And I have been like that. I can kind of briefly mention this too, as far as like when you're expecting a promise from God, you expect it to happen pretty quick, which sometimes things do. Sometimes it do, and sometimes they do not. Trust me, for this one situation I'm going through right now, God has taken His sweet time on it, and nothing wrong with it. I've had to understand that it's God's timing, not mine, and I have been trying to find a good full-time job for a while, and I still work part-time, but I'm trying to find a good full-time job, and I've been looking for one for 5-6 months, or maybe not that long. We'll just say 4 or 5 months, and there have been a couple times where I thought I was going to get something, and it just didn't. It went away, and it didn't work out. And it's been multiple times. It hasn't been once or twice. It's been quite a bit, and it was very frustrating to me. And I have almost gotten mad at God about it, because it's like, you've promised me this. Why do I keep getting these little bitty baits? Have you seen that little Geico commercial with that guy with the dollar bill?
Yes.
And he's like, no, State Farm is what it is. I got you $1. He's like, oh, you almost had it.
You gotta be quicker than that.
I almost got a little mad. It's like, God, why are you like trying to bait me to bite on these things? And you're just like, oh, nope, And it has taken me a long time. I have no idea why it's taken me this long, but I've had to realize that maybe God's just testing my faith to see how much I'm going to rely on Him. Nathaniel, what are you going to go to when you're down? What are you going to go to for comfort? What are you going to go to for closure? What are you going to go to help let off some steam? Are you going to go to something in the world? Are you going to go to entertainment to just forget about it? Or are you going to come to me? And there's been plenty of times where I haven't. I have just procrastinated of going and talking to God, just putting it off. It's like, no, I'm not going to talk to Him right now because I'm mad at Him or something. And let's see, there was a song. I think I posted it today on About 101. Waymaker. I like that song. The chorus is like awesome. It says, Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper. I was listening to it today, and I really got to think about it. Like, he is a promise keeper. Just because he's a promise keeper doesn't mean He's going to do it right now. He'll keep His promise, but it just might take a while. It might take 2 or 3 years, and that that can be a problem. When God promises something, we want to make it happen now.
Yes.
And, we are a now generation. We get stuff like this. We want to find out something on the internet. We can look it up, and within a matter of 5 seconds, depending on if you have 4G or not, it'll come right up. If you want to buy something, you can go on Amazon, buy it, and you can pretty much have it tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's just we are now in a spoiled generation where we just can get stuff right now. So when it comes to having a relationship with God, that's where I think it's very difficult.
Because we think we can take control of situations and make it happen ourselves. Like, okay, I have a personal example of this as far as my spouse, my husband. I was promised a godly man in my life. I mean, the first time I got like prophesied to about it was probably when I was a sophomore in high school. I mean, that was,
Oh,
15 years old.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I wasn't the type that dated a lot.
Mm-hmm.
The only two, I guess, relationships I had lasted about 3 months. I
Yeah.
mean, so the majority of my life I was single. And you can imagine the aggravation I felt with God, like, why would you tell me this and not? And so, and me trying to make, I wish I wouldn't have, but me trying to make it happen, like, okay, God, it's, I'm 19, it's got to happen now. It's my time is now.
Yeah.
And then again, when I'm 21, like, or 22, like, I've got to make it happen because God, you're just going too slow.
Mm-hmm.
And because I was trying to force something with somebody and trying to make God's promise come to pass right then, because He promised it to me, I probably did myself more damage
Yeah, you make
than
it more
good.
worse.
Yes, because I am a very open person. I give a lot of myself, so I feel like I left chunks of myself with those people, and I wish I would have just
I can
waited.
relate. Yeah.
Yeah, and just wait, because I mean, He obviously had somebody for me. He had the perfect person picked out for me, but I had to wait a long time for that. But I mean, I'm thankful it wasn't worse, because it could have been a lot worse. But in those times of waiting and trying to just wait for the actual promise God had for me, I'll tell you the verse. My favorite verses have become Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. I think you've mentioned this before in a previous
think I have.
podcast. But trust in the Lord with all thine heart. Lean not to thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct thy paths. I'm telling you, I leaned on that verse a lot, just knowing that, okay, as long as I trust, He's going to direct my path. He's going to lay it out for me that He will get me to the right person. If I just acknowledge Him and keep Him the center of my life, He will direct me. He's going to order my steps.
Yeah. We can kind of ease on into this story, which you were about. Me and you came up with the same thing, of Abram and it was Abram and Sarai, right? At this time, this is before they were named Abraham and Sarah.
Yeah.
That's so weird to me, Sarai saying that. Anyway, they were in a time in their life where Sarah could not bear a child, and they were promised a child, and obviously she got impatient and was just like, we got to make this happen. So Abram, go lay with my handmaiden. Handmaiden. Go lay with my handmaid, and her name is Hagar.
Mm-hmm.
And she bare a son. And then, funny thing, Sarah got jealous of it.
Yeah.
And she started to resent her.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, when you read the story, it's almost like you asked for that, so why are you getting so jealous and agitated about it? But, we're human. She's probably thinking, I couldn't do it, but she could bear a child and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And all this particular stuff. And, they had Hagar had a son, Ishmael. I'm just going to say Ishmael. But he was, okay, I have the verse somewhere to explain this. The Lord said this about Ishmael. He said, he will be a wild man, and his hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him, and he shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren. And, it's crazy to think that the descendants of Ishmael have been nothing but trouble, and they have, all throughout time, the descendants of Ishmael have been trying to destroy the descendants of Isaac.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just caused nothing but trouble over in the Middle East, and there's always war constantly going on over there now. Man, that may have been the start of it. Who knows? I mean, I like to think that it's kind of cool I wouldn't say it's cool that there's war, but I just think it's kind of cool how to know that could be the potential thing that started the whole
just
hate
somebody jumping the gun and not waiting on how the promise was going to come and saying, okay, well, he must, I'm going to try to figure it out for myself. This must be what he meant. This must be how it's going to happen. But yeah, because Sarah was so impatient about okay, this promise, okay, Abraham's going to have kids. I'm 90 years old. It must be through Hagar.
Yeah.
That must be it. But how sad, like, I wonder how she must have felt, or how she must have wished so much after she had Isaac. I wish I could go back and say, we're just going to wait on God.
Yeah.
And how things could have been so different even today.
Yeah. And, that might have taught her something. It's like, oh, from now on,
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to wait on God. Yeah, it's also not just Sarah's fault. It's Abraham's fault for going, okay.
Yeah.
I'll do it. He
Just
probably
like Adam and Eve.
Yeah, he probably was like, oh, that sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
That's got to be the way. Clearly it wasn't, but, she didn't even like the outcome.
Yeah.
We've already mentioned this, more than likely when we try to force something God has promised us, it turns out way worse than
Yes.
what we intend on it, and it may end up hurting us in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like forcing a job on me, I may end up hating my life for the rest of all of eternity, until as long as I live, because it might not be the job that God had for me.
Yeah.
And I firmly believe that God's got something for me. I have had to transition. It's the point of just being like, okay, I have got to patiently wait. And thinking this Abraham and Sarah situation here with Ishmael, it's a little bit more extreme, the outcome, but it kind of helps me think I don't want to do a Abraham and Sarah moment.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to create something way worse than what I even intended on it to be.
And you're in a point that you're in the middle of that waiting period. Those are the hardest times to be in. I can remember a time in my life where I was in that kind of similar job situation, and especially being like on the precipice of adulthood and feeling like you should have your life figured out by this point. That is the hardest time. I'm telling you, I've been there. I've been exactly where you are. And when you do finally receive the promise, hindsight's gonna be awesome. Like, wow, I should have just trusted him all along. How could I have doubted? But it's always that way, though. We in the middle of the struggle, we panic, we worry, we're anxious. But when God brings us through it, it's just triumph. I mean, you can look back on that and say, God brought me through it, and that's why God puts us through it, is so we can, prove Him.
I can actually mention this. I talked about this last episode, Joseph's story, when he went through all the trials that he went through. Before any of that started, he had a dream of everyone was going to be kneeling before him, and he rolled over everyone. He didn't know what it meant. Then he got put to like the lowest of lows, and then when he became ruler over Egypt, and his brothers came and knelt before him, he pretty much had a flashback and had that dream, and like he realized this is what it was.
Yeah.
And then he said, I now know why I went through everything. And it's, that's a cool concept to realize too. We may not understand it now, may not ever understand why we went through it so long, but there is always something to learn from a waiting process, as far as like waiting on a promise from God. It's maybe to build your patience, maybe to build your steadfastness of just being able to just stand there and was like, I will wait. I will not move no more until you come, Lord. That's a tough thing. Like you just mentioned, I'm in the parts of feeling like I need to be an adult, and that's what drove me nuts. It's like I should be an adult right now. I'm 22. I need to have some of my life figured out. And this was like pretty much one of the first times in my life that I didn't have
a clear path. Yeah.
Because I was always in school, doing all that. Got my business degree. I was like, okay, next step, IT. Nope, that was not for me. And once I decided not to do that, I'm like, I literally felt a feeling that I never thought I'd feel. And it's kind of ironic because people are always talking about when preaching, it's like those hard times are going to come, and really they hardly ever came while I was in school because I had a path set out. But as soon as I made a decision to not do this particular career path, this is when I'm like, wow, I'm literally out in the dark now. And now I've fully had to rely on God, and it's been pretty tough, but I feel like now I'm in the process of where it's like, okay, I understand, I have to wait, and I'm willing to do it. I'm not going to force it, because I've tried forcing relationships in the past, and you literally mentioned pouring out a lot of emotions and stuff, and I've left a lot of emotions behind a lot of relationships, and realizing that I don't need to force something, regardless of it, whether it be relationships, whether it be a ministry or something. Like I said, don't set goals that are too high, or if it's a promise, or if you're setting goals, you shouldn't get impatient and try to force stuff.
That's what me and Brandon say all the time is, if it's in the will of God, the door's going to open easily. It's not going to be a struggle. But if you feel a block in front of you and you're trying to push through something, just try to find another path, because that might be God having the door shut. Don't try to knock the door down. You're just going to hurt yourself. But, just find an open door.
You're just going to hurt yourself if you knock the door down. You might get a few splinters. You might break your arm or something.
Yeah.
Who knows? Metaphorically speaking, not literally, Lord.
Or literally.
Yeah, literally. I broke my wrist a couple years ago.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I did.
On a door?
No, not on a door. Playing basketball.
Okay.
I feel like we can end it here. And I don't know if you had any last thoughts. If you don't, then we can end it right here.
I'm good.
Good deal. I did tell you about this.
Yeah.
I try to take pictures of everyone at the very end of the podcast if you want to get picture friendly. All right, thanks. It's got film in it. Good Lord. Wait, it doesn't dry like that. All right. Well, this has been awesome, Michelle.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm glad. This went fast. This went by really fast, but it was longer than I thought it was. So it's pretty awesome. So, thank you all for taking the time. May have to split this in 2 parts. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But thank you all for taking the time out of your day to listen to this. And as always, be ready.